a gripping family drama about betrayal, hidden truths, and the unraveling of a decades-old secret kept by a mysterious neighbor. Hey everyone! What would you do if you found out your quiet, unassuming neighbor knew a secret that could destroy your entire family? I'm Daniel, a 38-year-old therapist from Ohio, and I thought I had my life all figured out, until a single conversation flipped everything upside down. Stick around, because this story gets wild, and I need your thoughts on what I did next. It all started last fall, on a chilly October evening in my quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. The leaves were turning orange, the air smelled like rain, and I was sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee, just trying to unwind after a long day of therapy sessions. My wife, Emily, was inside making dinner, and our two kids, Mia and Lucas, were playing in the living room. Everything felt normal. Too normal, I guess. There's me, Daniel, a 38-year-old therapist who's supposed to have all the answers. My wife, Emily, 36, who's the sweetest person I know but has always been a little secretive about her past. And then there's Mrs. Harper, our 70-year-old neighbor who's lived across the street for as long as I can remember. She's the kind of person who keeps to herself, always gardening, never chatting, just watching. I never thought much of her. Until that day. The strange encounter. So, there I was, just minding my own business, sipping my coffee on the porch as the chilly October breeze rustled the last of the autumn leaves around me. The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting a golden glow over my quiet Ohio neighborhood, and I was finally starting to relax after a grueling day of therapy sessions. Dealing with people's emotional baggage can really wear you out, you know? My wife Emily was inside, humming to herself while she chopped vegetables for dinner, and I could hear the faint giggles of our kids, Mia and Lucas, playing some silly game in the living room. It was one of those rare, peaceful moments where everything felt right in the world. And then I saw her, Mrs. Harper, our 70-year-old neighbor from across the street, shuffling along with her tiny terrier, Max, trotting at her heels. She's always been a bit of a mystery, never one for small talk, always tending to her roses or peering out her window with those sharp, knowing eyes. I'd wave occasionally, and she'd give a curt nod, but that was it. So when she stopped dead in her tracks this time, right in front of my house, and turned to look at me, I felt a weird jolt. Her gaze was intense, like she was sizing me up, and I couldn't help but shift uncomfortably in my chair. I raised my hand in a friendly wave, forcing a smile. "Evening, Mrs. Harper. Max looking spry as ever," I called out, trying to break the tension. She didn't smile back. Instead, she took a slow step closer, her dog sniffing at the ground, and said in that raspy voice of hers, "Daniel, you look just like your father did at your age." I chuckled, a little thrown off. My dad passed away 20 years ago, and I hadn't thought about him looking like me in a long time. "Well, I'll take that as a compliment," I replied, figuring she was just reminiscing. But then she leaned in slightly, her eyes narrowing, and dropped the bomb. "He'd be ashamed of what your family's hiding." My laugh died in my throat. Ashamed? Hiding? What was she talking about? My mind raced. My family's always been pretty open, or so I thought. Mom and Dad raised me and my sister with love. No big skeletons in the closet that I knew of. I opened my mouth to ask what she meant, but before I could get a word out, she turned on her heel and shuffled off, Max yipping behind her, leaving me staring after her in stunned silence. I sat there, my coffee growing cold in my hands, the steam fading into the crisp air. My heart was pounding now, a mix of confusion and curiosity swirling in my chest. What did she know that I didn't? Was this some old lady's ramblings, or was there something real behind it? I glanced back at my house, where Emily's silhouette moved behind the kitchen curtains, and the kids' laughter drifted out. Everything looked so normal, but now it felt off? I couldn't shake the feeling that Mrs. Harper had just cracked open a door I didn't even know existed. And what she said next, when I finally worked up the nerve to talk to her again, made my stomach drop even more. Digging into the past. I couldn't sleep that night. Mrs. Harper's words kept echoing in my head. He'd be ashamed of what your family's hiding." I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling while Emily slept soundly beside me, her breathing steady and oblivious. By morning, I was a wreck, dark circles under my eyes, coffee in hand like a lifeline. I had to know what she meant. So, over breakfast, I casually brought it up to Emily. "Hey babe, you remember Mrs. Harper saying something weird about Dad last night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. She paused mid-bite, her fork hovering over her scrambled eggs, and gave me a tight smile. "Oh yeah, she's just old, Dan. Probably mixing up memories or something," she said, brushing it off with a little laugh. "But I know my wife. She's got this tell when she's nervous, a quick glance away and a slight twitch of her lips." She did both. My gut twisted. She was hiding something. I didn't push it then, not with the kids chattering about school, but that seed of doubt had already taken root. After dropping Mia and Lucas off at the bus stop, I decided to dig deeper. I headed to the attic, a dusty, cluttered space I hadn't touched in years. The air was thick with the smell of old cardboard and mothballs, and I started sifting through boxes, photo albums, my dad's old fishing gear, Mom's wedding dress still wrapped in plastic. It felt like stepping back in time. Then, tucked inside a shoebox labeled Taxes 1985, I found it, a yellowed envelope with my dad's handwriting. It was addressed to someone named Clara, and the date on it was just a month before he died. My hands trembled as I pulled out the letter. The paper crinkled under my fingers as I read, "Dear Clara, I'm sorry for what I did to you. I know I can't undo the past, but I hope you can forgive me one day. Your father, James." My dad's name. James. My jaw dropped. Who was Clara? A friend? A colleague? The letter didn't say more, but the weight of it hit me like a punch. I sat there on the attic floor, surrounded by memories, feeling like I'd uncovered a puzzle piece that didn't fit. I rushed downstairs, letter in hand, and found Emily folding laundry. "Who's Clara?" I demanded, holding it up. Her face drained of color, and she dropped a towel, stammering, I don't know, Dan. Where did you get that?" But her eyes betrayed her. She knew. I could see the panic flickering there. "This is my dad's handwriting," I said, my voice rising. "Don't lie to me, Emily. What's going on?" She looked away, tears welling up, and muttered, I can't talk about this right now." That was it. I felt betrayed. My own wife, keeping secrets about my family. My mind spun with questions. Was Clara an old girlfriend? A relative I never knew about? I couldn't focus on my therapy clients that afternoon. All I could think about was that letter. And what I found out next, when I pieced together more clues, made me question everything I thought I knew about my family. The neighbor's confession. By the next day, I was a man on a mission. I couldn't shake the letter or Emily's evasive answers, and Mrs. Harper's cryptic comment was burning a hole in my brain. After lunch, I told Emily I was going for a walk to clear my head. Technically true, but my real plan was to confront Mrs. Harper. My heart was hammering as I crossed the street, the crisp autumn air biting at my cheeks. I knocked on her door, my knuckles rapping harder than I intended, and waited, feeling like I was about to step into a storm. Mrs. Harper opened the door slowly, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, those sharp eyes locking onto mine. She didn't look surprised, almost like she'd been expecting me. "Daniel," she said, her voice steady, "I figured you'd come." I didn't waste time. "What did you mean about my family hiding something? Who's Clara?" I blurted, holding up the letter like it was evidence in a trial. She sighed, a long, weary sound, and gestured for me to step inside. Her living room smelled like lavender and old books, with faded photos lining the walls. She sat me down on a creaky armchair and took a seat across from me, folding her hands in her lap. "Clara's my daughter," she began, her voice low. I blinked, confused. Okay, but what does that have to do with my dad? She looked down for a moment, then met my gaze. "Your father and Clara had an affair, Daniel." 40 years ago. She was 19, he was 35. It lasted a year before he ended it and chose your mother. The room spun. My dad, an affair? I felt a surge of anger, then disbelief. That can't be true, I muttered, but Mrs. Harper wasn't done. Clara got pregnant, she continued. She had a baby. A girl. Your half-sister. Your father paid her off to keep quiet, and your mother made sure Clara and I stayed out of your life. We moved here years later, and I've watched you grow up, knowing the truth, but bound by that promise. My mouth went dry. A sister? A whole other family I never knew about. I thought of my mom, always so gentle, and my dad, the man who taught me to fish and told me to be honest. It was like they were strangers. Why tell me now? I asked, my voice cracking. Mrs. Harper's eyes softened. Because I'm old, Daniel. I don't want to take this secret to my grave. Clara deserves to know her brother, and you deserve the truth. I stumbled out of her house, my mind reeling. A half-sister. Emily knew. She must have. How else would she have reacted to that letter? I pictured her face from the night before, the way she'd avoided my eyes, and the pieces started falling into place. She'd been protecting me, or maybe protecting herself from my reaction. I felt a mix of rage and hurt bubbling up. My family wasn't just hiding a secret. They'd built my whole life on a lie. And what I did next, when I confronted Emily with this bombshell, changed everything. The final revelation and the fight for justice. I stormed back home, my head a chaotic mess of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. The letter from my dad, Mrs. Harper's confession about Clara, it all swirled together like a storm I couldn't escape. When I walked into the kitchen, Emily was there, wiping down the counter, humming softly like nothing had happened. That pushed me over the edge. "You knew!" I shouted, slamming the letter and the truth about Clara onto the table. "You knew I had a sister, and you didn't tell me." Her humming stopped. She turned, her face paling, and tears welled up instantly. "Dan, please," she whispered, stepping toward me. "I didn't want to hurt you. Your mom made me promise when we got engaged. She said it was better you never knew." Better for who? I thought, my chest tightening. Better for her to steal my sister's life? I shot back. Emily sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. "I thought the past should stay buried," she sobbed. "I was trying to protect our family." Protect our family? That's when it hit me. People think therapists like me always have it together, that we're immune to emotional chaos. Myth busted. I was a wreck, torn between love for my wife and fury at the lie. I needed air, so I stepped outside, pacing the porch trying to process. That's when Mrs. Harper's words echoed again. She'd said Clara deserved to know me. I pictured her as a young girl, abandoned by my dad, and it felt like a knife twist. I decided to find Clara. With some old-fashioned detective work, calling the county records office, I tracked her down to a small town an hour away. I drove there the next day, my hands gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. When I knocked on her door, a woman in her late 30s answered. Same hazel eyes as mine, same jawline as Dad's photos. "Clara?" I asked, my voice shaky. She nodded, studying me. "You must be Daniel," she said, like she'd been waiting too. Inside, over cups of tea, she told me everything. My dad had left her a substantial inheritance after his death, enough to change her life. But my mom had forged the will, cutting Clara out completely, leaving her and Mrs. Harper to struggle. Clara showed me the proof. Letters from Dad promising her security, legal documents with my mom's forged signature. It was like a movie plot, except it was my life. I felt a surge of guilt imagining Clara's childhood, scraping by while I grew up comfortable. I couldn't let that stand. It felt like finding a puzzle piece that finally completed the picture. My family's wealth was built on her loss. I called Emily, and after a long, tearful talk, we agreed to fight. We took my mom's estate to court, armed with Clara's evidence. It was messy. My mom, now in a nursing home with fading memory, Didn't even understand the lawsuit. But justice won out. Clara got her inheritance and I gained a sister. The fallout? My relationship with Mom's memory is strained, and Emily and I are still rebuilding trust. But Mrs. Harper thanked me with tears, saying I gave Clara closure. It wasn't easy, but it felt right. And what I learned about myself through this? Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's worth fighting for. A new beginning and lingering shadows. After the court battle, things settled into an uneasy calm. Clara and I started building a relationship, awkward at first, like two strangers feeling their way through a shared history. We met for coffee a few times, swapping stories about Dad. She told me about her tough childhood, scraping by with Mrs. Harper, and I shared memories of fishing trips and Dad's terrible jokes. It was strange to see him through her eyes, someone who'd hurt her deeply, but also tried to make amends with that inheritance. I felt a mix of pride and shame, like I was carrying both their legacies now. Emily and I worked hard to mend things. She apologized 100 times, and I could see her guilt weighing her down. We went to couples counseling. Ironic, right? A therapist needing therapy. And slowly, we found our footing again. The kids noticed the tension at first, asking why Mommy and Daddy were so quiet, but with time, the house felt warm again. Still, there's a shadow there. Every time I look at Emily, I wonder what else she might be holding back. Mrs. Harper became a quiet ally. She'd wave from her porch now, a soft smile replacing her usual sternness, and sometimes she'd bring over cookies for the kids. Clara moved closer, renting a place just 20 minutes away, and we're planning a family dinner soon, my kids meeting their aunt for the first time. It's bittersweet, though. My mom passed away a month after the court decision, her mind too far gone to explain herself. I visit her grave sometimes, talking to the headstone, asking why she hid Clara from me. I'll never get an answer. The whole experience taught me something people don't talk about enough. Family secrets don't just hurt the ones who keep them, they ripple out, shaping lives for generations. I used to think I had it all figured out as a therapist, but it's like life handed me a mirror, showing me how much I didn't know. Clara and I are closer now, and I'm grateful. But there's a part of me that'll always wonder what could have been if the truth had come out sooner. And that's where I'm at, starting fresh, but with a few scars to show for it. I tracked down Clara that same week, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and determination. I drove to her small house an hour away, my hands sweaty on the steering wheel, unsure of what I'd find. When she opened the door, it was like looking into a mirror of my past. Those hazel eyes, that familiar jawline, all echoes of Dad. "Clara," I managed, my voice barely steady. She nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "You must be Daniel," she said, like she'd been waiting for this moment too. Inside, over shaky cups of tea, she laid it all out. My dad had left her a substantial inheritance after his death, money that could have changed her life. But my mom had forged the will, cutting Clara out completely, leaving her and Mrs. Harper to struggle for decades. Clara pulled out the proof, letters from Dad promising her security, legal documents with my mom's forged signature, evidence that turned my stomach. It was a betrayal I couldn't fathom, my gentle mom stealing from my sister. My whole world tilted. I felt a surge of rage, then a deep, aching guilt. Clara's life had been shaped by this secret, while I'd grown up oblivious. I had to make it right. I called Emily, and after a raw, tear-filled conversation, we agreed to take my mom's estate to court. It was a brutal fight. My mom, now in a nursing home with a fading mind, didn't even grasp the lawsuit. But the truth won. Clara got her inheritance, and in that moment, I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross, choosing justice over the family image I'd clung to. So that's where the story lands. Clara got her inheritance, and we're slowly building a bond. Awkward coffee dates turning into something real. My relationship with Emily is healing, though trust still feels fragile, and we're working through it with counseling. The kids are back to their usual chaos, and Mrs. Harper's even started waving with a smile, sometimes dropping off cookies. But my mom, she passed away a month after the court decision, her memory too gone to explain herself. I visit her grave sometimes, asking why, but the silence is my only answer. This whole mess taught me that family secrets don't just fade, they shape us, for better or worse. If you were shocked by this wild ride, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you on edge. What would you have done in my shoes? Fought for Clara or kept the peace? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to hear them.